Welcome to today's episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Brsan.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
I want to make sure that you take note today as a part of my open so that we can talk about the things that worked this week, the things that work in our business, and the kind of things that take anyone's business to the next level. So even if someone was watching this now or watching it later and says to themselves, I don't do any business with them, hopefully one of these points will help them take their business to the next level, because they're just observations I've made about this week together. After my open and this conversation, I've got some really pointed questions to ask Adam about this week. I've got questions like, what are the biggest wins of his week? What was different this week, this year, over last year? I would love to hear his impression as he continues to add Transamerica Express, and we continue to learn what place it has in our production and what he's done to overcome B-backs and setbacks this week. Of course, he's going to walk through more of his sales week, and we're going to discuss more about mindset. But if any of those questions would be beneficial for you to hear about, stay tuned and stay on, because we're definitely going to cover those as well. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about 4 things this morning that make your business evolve to the next level, survive over challenging times, thrive when things are going well. First, as you're obviously aware, it's investing in your business. That doesn't necessarily have to be just leads. That could be CRM, that could be staff, that could be any of different things. Investing in your business will take your business to that next level, and you know it. Last Friday, we saw a record amount of investments in your business through leads. The amount of money invested towards direct mail, Facebook leads, and live transfers was more than I could probably account for in the past. And guess what? If you really want that money from last week to really be worth it, you need to do it again this week. Even if you're not in our agency and you're watching this today, tomorrow, or in the future, and you invested a lot of money in leads the week before, you got to do it again this week, or honestly, it was a waste. Doubling down on your marketing plan and only doing it once is the equivalent of a football Hail Mary. You're just hoping that by buying 5 more leads, something big happens. They might catch it and score a touchdown, but realistically, doubling down and scaling your business requires you doing the same thing in your business several weeks in a row. So if you did it once last week, do it again this week when we reach out. Second, dialing in and plugging in to people around you. Now, of course, hopefully that's us and our agency and the community that we built together here, but this is a collectively true comment across the industry. Dialing in and plugging into someone that you want to work with, or a collection of people you choose to do business with. In a busy growing business like this, and a busy growing agency like ours, it's easy for things to be missed, simply to be missed by accident. And when you dial in and you make yourself known to a greater community, you get the attention of those that want to pour back into you. And I can say it all the time. I can tell you of at least several instances of folks that wanted to pick up broker contracts with us, and we mean well, and we want to do well, and we want to grow with them, but we never got to it because I don't see them. I don't hear from them. I don't know about them. They're just not there. Dialing in and plugging in and being present with those around you gets those around you to pour back into you more, and you'll grow better. You'll gain knowledge and power, and the fire of those connected around you only keeps you warmer, especially in cold months like this. It's getting pretty cold outside, right? Imagine for a second, you are out in the cold, trying to survive a winter storm, but you're out in the cold alone, no fire, no food, and no one to help you. I know for a fact I would probably freeze to death. Sorry to say, I probably would. But when you get around other people, like when you get around us today, and Adam talks about mindset today, that's the kind of fire that keeps you warm and helps you survive. I see agents all the time over the course of the present time and in the past get down on themselves and isolate themselves. And guess what? When you get down on yourself and you isolate yourself, you fall deeper and deeper into a hole that's almost impossible to dig yourself out of. Lone wolves just don't survive or never thrive. But a community of folks breeds positivity and protects themselves from negativity. The fire of community creates energy, raises people up, and pushes them out of the struggles that life and business oftentimes create. If you find yourself struggling, if you find yourself underperforming, step back into the fire and get around people that are going to make you better. When you find yourself succeeding, pour back into others. Now, the reality is you may not be making money off of someone you're pouring into, but the karma and the reality of this business is when you offer to speak, teach, train, and make an effort to connect with others, you get better. If you rewind the clock about 8 years, I took countless in and up phone calls from agents at our first organization that knew I knew underwriting and wanted me to help them. And I never made a penny off of them. And in many cases, I resented it. I was angry at the fact that I was taking the call and my upline was making the dollar. It was a toxic mindset. But what I didn't realize in that moment, and I do realize in hindsight, is that all the people that called pushed me to get better because they called wanting help from me. So I had to rise to the occasion. So get around other people. And when things are going good for you, speak, teach, train, and make an effort to connect because it'll still make you better. Third point, you know what else works? And you know what else works for us? And you know what else has made an obvious sign of improvement for us is diversification. Diversification matters because we're watching a wave of people in this industry right now that are used to selling from home or selling IUL in their underwear and chasing that first-year commission. No offense to you guys out there that do that. But guess what? First-year commission is great. You could write $70,000 in first-year commission in 1 month, and in 13 months, nothing. There's nothing to show for it. Diversification allows you to build first-year commission and back-end renewals. Diversification makes a real difference in our agency, as over the course of the last 4 years, a lot of people have been afraid about finances. And not just people like the people we sell to, but the people producing as well. Diversification helps you overcome those fears of finances and economy and the world around you. The reality is oftentimes that the fear of finances makes you afraid to sell insurance and makes them afraid to buy it. But the reality is that diversification makes the insurance more affordable. If you're adding money back into someone's check and you're taking half of it back for final expense, they can freaking afford it. If you're getting them $200 a month in OTC, the $30 a month in final expense, they won't notice. You just have to be good enough to be able to manage both of it. Diversification also protects you because plain and simple, having all your eggs in one carrier, all your eggs in one product, all your sales in one vertical allows those eggs to be scrambled pretty easily. I mean, you guys can go and listen to the video that David Price did with Cody Askins a few days ago. He decided to leave a multi-million-dollar business that he had willed into existence because he realized having all of his eggs in one basket meant that basket could get knocked over pretty quickly. What I'm saying to you is not go work with David Price. He's a great guy, but diversify. You got to be able to spread to protect yourself. Fourth, you have to have the desire like you've had this week to grow and get bigger. So many agents in this industry impose limitations on themselves because they say to themselves, I'm fine where I'm at. You know, I made $1,500 this week. My rent's paid. The light bill's good. I got a few bucks in the bank. I can go out to dinner and have a drink. I'm good. But you have to have a desire to grow and be bigger, because when challenges arise, if you don't have that desire to be bigger, you're going to be knocked down pretty easily. People like Adam and I have a growing desire, an obsession, the opposite of that, because we want to grow and do better and get bigger and pour into more people. But here's the thing. We need your help to do that. I'm speaking to specifically the people on Free Conference Call HD right now. We need your help to do that in many cases. The people watching us in StreamYard connected with the agency. Maybe somebody out there right now who is alone in the cold and needs help. We need to connect with people because the biggest growth we've ever experienced comes through social media and comes through people already connected to the agency. The biggest growth always comes from connecting and talking to others around you, sharing your story with somebody. You know, my story began in this business over a holiday weekend, reaching out to a family member and saying, what do you do? How does it work? And can you show me how to do it? You want to be on the other end of that conversation, talking to somebody else who you know has what it takes. Talk to others, share your story, share our story, and invite people in to these type of conversations. The morning calls, the YouTube channel. Get people connected and in that conversation. And I promise you, it'll make you better. It'll make us better. And we'll continue to grow one week after the next. We have everything in place right now to double in size, but we need your help to share this kind of conversation with others out there. So remember, invest in your business this week, just like you did last week. Otherwise, last week was a failed Hail Mary. Dial in and remain plugged in. Stay warm and close to the fire, especially in the cold of winter. Diversify. Diversification will carry you through the challenges in this world and build you a back-end income you deserve. And fourth, have a desire to get bigger. Even if that's just in your individual business, have that desire to grow and don't remain average. So Adam, I've got some excited, pointed questions to ask you this morning, and then I'm going to allow you to take over and explain how your week went for the viewing audience. I appreciate you being on and leading. Ready for some fun questions on this week?
Yeah. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody.
All right. Biggest win of the week. You had a pretty awesome week, a pretty good bounce back week, but share with those what you think your biggest win of the week was.
My biggest win, honestly, I don't know. That's a good question. Let's see. I'm kind of looking at the business that I wrote this week. If there's anything that really pops out in particularly, I would just say my biggest win would be on the unexpected business. What I mean by that is the business that isn't off of a lead, but maybe off of like referrals and existing policyholders. A decent amount of the business I wrote this week was off of that. So to me, I'd say that was a win, because had I not reached out to existing policyholders or obtained any referrals, there would have been a lot less premium written and a lot less Medicare pieces of business written as well. So I would say that would be my biggest win, not just solely focusing on the leads, but being able to generate that business from the existing policyholders and the referrals.
Yeah, I remember when that light bulb came on a few years ago about the power of book of business. It almost became like I didn't want to go back and see someone I hadn't met yet. I was able to get in front of so many people and write so much business with so much stress. It was addicting. And that's an amazing growth moment to teach and to preach to others that the biggest win can be connecting with people who already know who you are. A second question before we get into the specifics of your week for the benefit of those listening in. You're doing something this week that you weren't doing last year. And I'm thinking to myself as we get close to Thanksgiving, one of the biggest cold streaks you ran into last year was the Thanksgiving season. It's not a season, it's honestly one day, but you hit us because Thanksgiving's busy, family, dinners, responsibilities outside of being in final expense. So we're trying to kind of push back and grow through that moment. But what would you say is your biggest growth this year compared to what you were doing last year?
I don't know, maybe just being a little bit more responsible with my time, even like today. I usually don't go out on Fridays. I am going out for a little bit today. I have a client of mine that I was able to help last week reinstate a life policy, and I'm going to talk to her about her Medicare. And it's probably a slam dunk. And then I figured if I'm going to be out anyways, might as well have the appointments that are set me up some other stuff. So yeah, why not? My girls, they have some stuff going on this weekend. They have a cheerleading competition. Actually, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Sunday, 4 days in a row. But I told my wife, you know what? I mean, I'll go over the weekend. I'll go Saturday and Sunday, but I can't cut off work those days.
Yeah. So absolutely. Adam, you're talking about appointment setting, and just a quick side note, our appointment team set 59 appointments this week for the course for the agents plugged in. In the small scale and in the 1 week basis, sometimes it's kind of hard to see the forest that's growing around you. But I think that's pretty awesome. 59 preset appointments last week from the team. What do you think?
I mean, it can be a real grind out in the field. And I mean, for years, all I ever was doing was just door knocking leads, but it's tough. This week, if I look at the business that I wrote, actually, I think every single piece of business I wrote was off of one of the appointments that was set or one that I had set myself. So where in the past, all I ever did was just door knock leads. It was a grind. Maybe I was younger and just had more energy, and it worked, but I kind of like having a little bit of structure now, having the appointment set. And then I will door knock when I have time in between the leads. So this week, I really didn't have a whole lot of time in between the leads. Sat down with people. They happened to be home, wrote business, and worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I made a joke with Shannon. I was talking to him, I think last week, and I said, we're not as young as we were in 2016 when door knocking would have been, easy or fun or like part of the business. We're a lot busier, where kids are a lot older, the responsibilities are a lot broader. The world is just a busier place. I'm glad that appointment setting would give me the opportunity to do something in 2, 3, or 4 days that would take 4, 5, or 6 days to do just, brute force door knocking with no assistance on appointments. You wrote some Transamerica Express this week. Shout out to Steve Weber and Transamerica. Didn't wear their pullover today, but maybe next week. Talk to me or talk to us about when you used Transamerica Express this week.
Yeah, I wrote, looks like I wrote 2 Transamerica Express pieces of business. Tried to write another one last night, but the guy was declined. But he was declined everywhere. I tried like 3 places, and every single one of them shut him down. And he was 81 years old. The affordability factor on a guaranteed issue, they just couldn't handle it. So that was one I didn't get. But yeah, the Transamerica, I like it. I mean, and I think others know that I try to lead with American Amicable. I just honestly, the biggest reason I like seeing the reasoning behind the decision at the end. It makes my job easier. And in some scenarios, though, like I kind of know going in that they're probably not going to be the best option. If there's certain health issues that the person has going on, that I know for sure it's probably going to go to like a return of premium. Well, I mean, I'm not going to write a return of premium if I know I can get them first day on another product. So that was really the scenario, 2 of them that I wrote. There were a few pre-existing issues. I don't think it was anything like super serious. I think one of the guy might have been taking like a seizure medication or something. And I knew that American Amicable, that would probably a good possibility go and return a premium. So I wrote it on the Transamerica Express, and it went through with flying colors, no problem whatsoever. And then the one yesterday morning, kind of the same thing, just a few additional issues with the person's health. And I figured, you know what? I'll try putting it through there. I know the questions will be answered no based on what she's telling me, but sometimes these meds could be an issue. I think she was taking like spironolactone, which a lot of companies will automatically just push to like assuming it's for congestive heart failure. But it wasn't. I think it was just for like blood pressure. I don't think she had heart failure. So anyways, at least that's what she told me, and it went through, and she was approved. So not bad. I'll take it.
Well said. Yeah, I can't ask for much better than that. And I think just simply the fact that business is not going to be referred to underwriting or stuck in pending business is going to make agents millions of dollars of more money, like plain and simple. Over the course of the last 9 years, the amount of business that I lost to pending business and amendments and that our agency lost to pending business and amendments, I guarantee is at least $1 million. And just the fact that now that's not an issue, it's going to make people so much more money. It's going to protect more families. It's going to issue more policies. And thank you, Transamerica, for entering the new era of final expense. We had a lot of comments yesterday. We did a thing that I love to do occasionally in the mornings, biggest wins and biggest struggles. We dispense with the numbers. We don't want to hear what you sold yesterday. We saw it in the group chat and we love it. But what was your biggest win of the week and what was your biggest struggle? And people in our agency openly share both of those, which I think is pretty awesome. And we heard a lot from folks with difficulties in B-backs, where you show up and they say they're too busy. You show up and they're a no-show. I know that if I get no-showed in the morning, I'm showing up in the evening because they live there. They eventually have to go home, and they usually feel bad that they weren't there in the morning, and I catch them in the evening. But what thoughts could you share about your week in overcoming B-backs, no-shows, and that difficulty in getting in and getting into the presentation?
Yeah, really the mindset, I think, is really what makes the biggest difference. I think sometimes I'll let stuff that is out of my control bug me too much. and it just gets in my head, and you kind of have to, change your focus, I guess you could say, not worry about things that you can't control and just get back to work. And that was kind of my week. I quit worrying about outside noise, outside issues. I had a carrier, they took thousands of dollars of renewals away from me, and for really no good reason. And yeah, it had been in my mind a little bit, because that means I got to work that much harder. Income that I had expected to have coming in, to help with mortgage and everything else, suddenly is no longer there. So that was on my mind a lot. And I think it was affecting production because I was thinking too much about that. And I finally said, you know what? I got to quit being such a little bitch and just get back to work, and not think so much about these things. And that's what I did. Went back to work this week, quit worrying about stuff that's out of my control, and turned in a pretty good week.
Absolutely. I think sometimes we just have to tell ourselves not to be that way. And it's hard, because who wants to tell yourself not to be a whiny bitch? Like, go to work, like, help people. These people honestly need our freaking help, and I'm going to let myself get in the way of it. Like, come on. Or even worse, yeah. You walk in, you have a client, and not a real client, like a suspect or a lead, that shuts you down. I'm going to allow that person to keep me from helping somebody else? Are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm going to let that lady who told me she didn't want me to save her $30 on her Lincoln Heritage with a better policy slow me down? I'm not going to allow those idiots or my own, doubts to keep me from getting where I want to be. So, Adam, I appreciate you sharing that. The biggest wins, the growth from this year to last year, the power of using Transamerica Express somewhere in your product portfolio, and overcoming your own personal challenges and just getting in front of people.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.